Well, Happy New Year. Here we are, January 1st, and it's become a bit of a tradition for me to shoot a little video and get it out to you on this day, really to kind of frame the year ahead. So not only is it a new year, but it is a new decade. And, I just wanted to kind of talk for a minute about something and really kind of look at, success has to happen between the ears before it can, ever happen, in our business and in the marketplace, right? Our business can only ever grow to the size that we do. So we have to always be investing, expanding, new thoughts, lifting our business maturity and our mental maturity. And when we do that, of course, it's going to mean that we make better decisions, smarter decisions, and that's going to be reflected in our business. So this is just a moment where I want to teach a bit of a framework to you to kind of get you to self-audit, to get you to think about how you think about, and then effectively, I'll put some thoughts on the end about some new ways that you can think or do that'll help you set up a better year. I meet a lot of people who kind of brag to me, I'm 20 years in business or I'm 30 years in business, and when I quiz them and ask a few questions, I realize they're not 20 years in business. They're 1 year in business. They've just photocopied it 19 more times. They haven't grown as a person. They haven't grown as an entrepreneur. They haven't necessarily grown their business. And I think that's a tragedy, right? I think you and I need to go for everything God's got for us. And to do that, we've got to expand the way we think, have thoughts more like His. And then, the outworking of that is going to be a better business. So in this video, I kind of want to go back to one of my favorites, which is Matthew 10:16. And, it's a part of Scripture where Jesus grabs His disciples together and He says, all right, guys, I'm giving you the pep talk before I send you out. And He says to them, I'm sending you out as sheep amongst wolves. Now, I don't know, that's not a particularly inspiring statement, right? I'm sending you out as sheep to an animal that eats you. But He goes on to say, so be. Make sure you are as gentle as a dove, but also as shrewd as a serpent. And so I want to take that as a framework and look at business through those lenses and kind of teach the good and the bad in that regard. You've probably worked out by now, if you've been in business, that the business world is generally corrupt, self-seeking. We call it Babylonian by nature. It's a model built on self-interest, screw everybody, me over you, I've just got to get ahead, and I don't care how much collateral damage there is on the way through. So that's the actual world that we are called to be in, but not be called to be of. And so I just want to have a look at, the way that you think and see if there is a way that you can improve. So I have done just a basic X and a Y axis here. In kind of like personal development world, this is called a Johari window. And effectively, we've got the serpent down the left and we've got the dove across the bottom. My biggest apologies for that as a piece of artwork. I failed art at school and now you can see why. So as I chart these, of course, just to kind of explain what this is, the people in this top left quadrant, they are high in their serpent, but they are low in their dove because they're not past halfway across here. They're high in serpent, but low in dove. These people in the bottom left-hand corner, they've got the worst outcome. They are low in their serpent and low in their dove, all right? And then on this right-hand corner here on the bottom, we've got people that are low in their serpent, but they're really high in their dove, and that's where most of you are going to fit. And then ultimately the name of the game, though, is to be in this top right quadrant where we are high in serpent and high in dove. What do I mean by those two? The characteristics of the dove, they're obvious, right? Kindness, grace, mercy, turn the other cheek, almost being a doormat to the business world, and so forth. And by the way, there is a time to be all of those things. But He also says, go and be the serpent. What are the characteristics of the serpent? They are to be calculated, right? To have almost that killer instinct, to not be taken advantage of, to kind of be on guard all times. And Jesus says to His disciples, you need to learn how to be both of those because so many situations are going to come up where you need to decide which one you need to be. So I wonder if you were to chart yourself here I wonder where you sit. Very few of you would be in this bottom left-hand corner where you are not very good at either, okay? You would probably index and default one way or the other. You're probably in one of these two quadrants here. You're either really serpent, so you do the calculated, driven, get it done. You're either more that way inclined, but the majority of you guys that are watching this would be in this bottom right-hand corner. You are really good at the dove. You are always letting people kind of take advantage of you. You are always taking the humble road. You are always, kind of playing small, not necessarily maliciously, but just kind of playing lowly. And let me tell you that the world will fully take advantage of you if that's your default. Obviously, the ultimate outcome is to be in this top right-hand corner where we are very high. We know how to be very assertive in the serpent. We know how to flick that switch and become like that, have the killer instinct, fight for profit. But we also know how to be very good at the dove and how to extend that grace and to allow circumstances to arrive and so forth, right? That's the ultimate game, is to be very, very strong in both, and knowing which situation you're in requires which trait. So let's kind of drill that down into, well, what's the downside of both of these? The downside of this one is you should probably get out of business. If you find that you're in this bottom left-hand quadrant, I reckon the best thing you could do is go find another vocation, right? One where you're in a tight bubble and everyone's Christian would be ideal, because then you can get away with being like that. Ultimately, we want to be up here. But let's kind of look at these, right? The downside of being high serpent and low dove is that very kind of person is so task-driven that they can tend to put God off to the side, actually, and just say, I need to do it. I'm doing it in my own strength. And in a way, it's the end justifies the means. I don't really care if there's a few people that got hurt along the way. I don't really care if I upset some people, as long as I got my outcome. That's people that have over-indexed in their, in the serpent. What is a gift has now become something that is detrimental. It's the downside of being like that. But what about the downside here? The downside of being the dove is that you'll never fight for profit. You'll never have the hard conversation with a team. You'll never push back when the market wants to, take everything off you. And you'll always have a hard luck story. People will take advantage of you. Systems will take advantage of you. Organizations will take advantage of you. And you'll never actually get ahead because you don't know how to fight for what is actually yours. That's why we've got to have a beautiful blend of the two. You've got to have that humility and that grace and that kindness. But you've also got to have that drive and that assertiveness and that killer instinct. Because when you put those two together, you become unstoppable. So here's my question for you. January 1, where are you sitting on the framework, and what do you need to change? I want you to think about what you think about. Where are you sitting, and what needs to change so that your 2020 is not producing the same results as your 2019? Anyway, if you like this training, there'll be lots more of this coming up at Kingdom Business Summit. Just wanted to put that on your radar. 2 days of practical business training. You can find out more by going to kingdombusiness.com.au. There's a crazy offer there at the moment for you. But either way, just take 5 minutes now, pen, paper, notepad, however you do it, and just think, what has been my thinking up to this point, and what needs to be my new thinking moving forward, because that's going to reframe the way you think, which is going to reframe your actions, which is going to produce a better business. Anyway, I hope this was valuable. Put a comment in the comments below of your biggest take home. I'll read them and I'll reply to you real soon. See ya. Did you know that this show goes onto Facebook, it goes onto YouTube, it goes onto Instagram, it goes onto iTunes, and it goes onto LinkedIn? Do me a favor, would you? Tell more people about the show so that I can spread the message. Love ya. See ya.